Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Thursday, July 31st, 2014, and here are our top stories.
Tonight, how a health emergency could turn governors into dictators. Then, conservatives and the GOP battle over immigration. And the CIA is sorry they got caught spying on the Senate. That's next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
People doing stuff like trying to have privacy or using voice over IP or communicating through PC games. Man, there's nothing.
Well, this headline from the Daily Caller says it all. Conservatives battle GOP leaders. Isn't that the case? Finally, conservatives are going to realize that the GOP doesn't really represent them when it comes to individual liberty, when it comes to limited government, especially when it comes to opposing the entitlement state. Now, this is Boehner, who is trying to push this through, even though the article points out Obama's support has dived down to only 18%, and 57% oppose him. Where do you want to be if you're a politician and you want to get elected? Do you want to be standing with the 18% or do you want to be with the 82%? Now, we see some comments from some conservative leaders saying things like, this is equivalent to catching your opposition's Hail Mary pass and running it into the end zone. We can't understand why they can't do anything but fail in politics. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're worried about your votes because they've got the support of the Chamber of Commerce, of the banks, of the people who want NAFTA. That's what they supported along with the Democrats. They're pushing through NAFTA. They're pushing through this globalism. They don't really care what you want. That's why they're standing with the 18%. Now, Senator Sessions had a great summary of this. He said the leader's immigration bill is, quote, a plan for expedited asylum, not expedited removal of the hundreds of thousands of people that have come in just recently. To underscore this, there's also been a poll that has come out by the Tea Party Patriots. And listen to the breakdown on this. What is the most important issue to Tea Party Patriots? According to this poll, 34% want the flow of illegals stopped, compared to 24% who think that Obama's executive orders are overreaching, 23% who are opposed to Obamacare, 7% who are opposed to the IRS targeting politics and political enemies, and only 3% concerned about the Benghazi situation. 79% said that they're coming because they can be citizens. That's talking about the illegal aliens. That's what's going on. It's really about the subsidies. It's really about the massive expansion of the entitlement state, far beyond what we can afford, even if we weren't already $17 trillion in debt. Now, look at this story from the New American. Some illegal immigrant foster children are 22 years old. That's right. Now, as you may know, many of the children who have come across into Texas have been put into foster homes. But you may be surprised to learn that a lot of these quote-unquote children are 22 years old. Now, a spokeswoman for the Texas Catholic Charity said most of our children are 15 to 17 years old, but some stay in our program until they are 22 years old. Now, they get paid $40 per day per person, which means that in some foster homes, they can take up to 6 children. That means that they could get $7,400 per month. That's coming from taxpayers. Actually, that's going to be coming from your children in terms of debt because we're going into debt more every year. Now, that's in addition, the article points out, to other taxpayer subsidized activities like education, healthcare, and transportation. All of that is on top of that. Now, you may be aware of the fact that the IRS will give you, under some conditions, a child care credit. But they limit that for your family with many conditions. They also limit it to only 12 years of age. But of course, if it's an illegal child, you can get it for up to the age of 22. It may be no surprise to you that our government is not concerned about controlling the borders. And after the news, we're going to have a special report with a startling admission from the Border Patrol. But although they're not interested in controlling the border, controlling who's coming in, controlling what's coming in, controlling it to make sure that we don't get a pandemic coming across the border, if we do get disease and pandemic coming across the border, like we see drug dealers coming across the border, they have some plans to control the U.S. population. Look at this article from Paul Joseph Watson on INFOWARS today. The feds would exercise draconian emergency powers if something like Ebola hits the United States. Federal health authorities could exercise authoritarian powers to control an Ebola outbreak if the deadly disease hits the U.S. under the Model State Emergency Health Powers Act. Now, that's legislation that was passed in the wake of 9/11. Even at the time, it attracted controversy for its draconian scope, and that was in the aftermath of the hysteria and the panic after 9/11. Now, he says in the article that when asked about whether or not Ebola would be coming to the United States, CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, said it's going to happen at some point. So what are they going to do? Well, with this law, the American Associations of Physicians and Surgeons, as well as many conservative groups like Heritage Foundation and Phyllis Schlafly, have said that the legislation could turn governors into dictators in an unprecedented assault on the constitutional rights of the American people. And if you look at some of the things that have been enumerated in this, and there's so many things, it is truly martial law. They say it could force persons to be vaccinated, treated, or quarantined, of course, preempt existing state laws, rules, regulations, including those relating to privacy. Well, they've already gone after our privacy, our medical privacy as well. They said also, though, and this is key, they could go after property rights. They could ration firearms, food, fuel, alcoholic beverages, among any other commodities. In other words, full-out martial law. And, of course, many of the things that you see here that were put in 2001 are going to be a part of Obamacare and are a part of Obamacare in terms of violating our privacy. Stay with us. Right after the break, we're going to have some international news updates as well as updates on the surveillance and security state. We'll be right back.
Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our immune support infusion blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com. This is Alex Jones for InfoWarsLife.com. The latest in preparedness is now here. An electrically stabilized colloidal silver solution that can be added to both your home cabinet and preparedness pack alike. Concentrated to 30 parts per million in what has been dubbed the survival silver solution. The new InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver is the answer for you and your family. And it's entirely free of toxic artificial additives that are loaded into many products. The InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Silver is so powerful that it is concentrated into a 2-ounce bottle and is not recommended for extended continual use. This is not a low-grade formula. We are working with one of the top laboratory manufacturers in the United States to bring you the best form of colloidal silver using electrical processes within a base of deionized water for your preparedness storage. For your home kitchen, purchase your bottle of InfoWarsLife.com Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver today and find other amazing supplements at InfoWarsLife.com.
Welcome back. Now, there's talk in the U.S. of sending even more weapons to the Ukraine and to Israel. Of course, the military-industrial complex, the merchants of death want that as a profit center, a continuing profit center. But we have the merchants of debt, the banks, who are also wanting to get into the fight, and they got their wish today. We have some EU sanctions that are coming against Russia's biggest banks, including their largest bank. The European Union has imposed sanctions on 5 Russian banks, including the country's biggest. These financial entities will be banned from raising capital on the EU's capital markets. In other words, they're going to be banned from competing with the Western banks. Now, what we see happening here is a kind of asymmetric warfare. They can keep the Russians out of the very lucrative Western economies, but at the same time, the Russians are working to do an end round of the entire financial system, that is, to take down the American dollar with an alliance with Brazil, as well as India, China, and South America. That's the BRICS. If they can do that, That will be a crippling blow to the Western financial system. Now, there's a news from WikiLeaks. They put out a tweet a couple of days ago speculating as to whether or not Russia was going to renew Snowden's visa. If you remember, it was about a year ago that he was given asylum there. It expired and was up for renewal today, and they said, will they be trading him in for better relations with the West? Well, I don't know, but I tell you what, Putin is no friend of free speech either, because we see in this news from The Guardian that just like those in the West, the Russian government is now cracking down on individual journalists, on bloggers, on social media. They want to control freedom of the press there and free speech every much as the Western governments do. Look at this story from The Guardian. Russia tightens controls on the blogosphere. Bloggers say new law is an attempt to crack down on free expression and criticism of the Russian government. A law that comes into effect on Russia tomorrow will place tighter controls on the blogosphere, one of the few remaining places where people can freely criticize the government. Popularly known as the Law on Bloggers, the legislation requires users of any website whose posts are read by more than 3,000 people each day to publish under their real name and register with the authorities if requested. See, whenever they think anything is dangerous, like free speech or the freedom to keep and bear arms, or right to keep and bear arms, they want you to register those freedoms with you, so they'll know who's using these freedoms that they feel threatened by. And they clearly pointed out what is obvious to all of us if you think about it. They say it's about creating a situation where Big Brother is watching you, said one of the media entrepreneurs and a popular blogger. He said, you're part of a list. You are being watched. You're being observed. You're being served notices. You could even serve a criminal sentence if you choose to speak out. That's what the registration is really about. They want these bloggers to know that they're being watched. They want to underscore that. In the same way that the Western governments leaked out about a year and a half ago, the fact that they were spying on AP reporters and other reporters, they like to send that out as a bit of intimidation. And so that's some intimidation of free speech in Russia going on there. Well, you may remember it was about a month ago that the German government told the CIA chief to get out of Germany. Well, it's not just the German government, it's our own government that's angry with the CIA, specifically the Senate. They were looking at reports about CIA torture, rendition, and they got spied on by the CIA. Staffers were tapped into. Now, they took then-Director Brennan before the Senate committee, and he said to them, he said, as far as the allegations, CIA hacking into, Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we wouldn't do that. I mean, it's just beyond the, the scope and reason in terms of what we would do, he said. Well, you know what? He came back today and he said, actually, we were doing that. And he actually apologized, which is good. He apologized to the Senate for essentially doing a J. Edgar Hoover on him. This is something that the intelligence community has been notorious for the longest amount of time. But it's interesting that he did finally admit it in this war going back and forth between Senate leaders. What he did not apologize for was the rendition, the detention, and the torture and assassination, which was the subject of the investigation. Now, they're going to lay hard on that. And if you remember, CIA Director John Brennan was one of Obama's point men on the drone assassinations. It's one of the reasons he was picked as CIA chief. Now, it's not just the CIA that's going to be coming after your information, of course. You can be hacked by any number of individuals, and those hackers can control your phone, according to Wired magazine, using a tool that's already built into it. Now, this is very similar to what we saw with Intel. Remember, we did these reports a while back that showed that Intel had put software in that would let them do diagnostics remotely on your laptop. I don't know why that would be so important for you. I mean, typically, if you have a problem with your computer, we usually take it to the shop. But yes, they're going to be able to remotely tap in and do diagnostics. They've put that sort of thing into iPhones and other smartphones, and that makes it very easy for hackers, especially the intelligence services, to hack in. They say a lot of concern about the NSA's seemingly omnipresent surveillance over the last year has focused on the agency's efforts to install backdoors and software and hardware. But those efforts are greatly aided, however, if